Welcome to Creative Brews. I'm Kristen, and this is your weekly dose of creativity, where photography, design, and life come together. So, grab your favorite drink, and let's talk about what's brewing. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Creative Brews. So, before we hop right on in, I just want to go ahead and say I do apologize for not doing a visual episode here lately. Not only has life been kind of crazy, I guess you could say, in all the good ways. Nothing, but I was gonna do a visual episode today, and if I'm being honest, I am not really feeling good. We're kind of having some allergy problems. So, me and our little one, and he is taking a nap at the moment. And to be honest, I should be resting myself, because that's exactly what I was gonna do, and I tried, but I don't know, I can't. So, I figured what I would do is hopefully on the next episode, I'll do a visual episode. Yes, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about escaping the Matrix. So, this is going to kind of tie into the Mindset Myths mini-series a little bit. I guess there's some myths that I'll be talking about, and I'm probably going to I'm not sure. I'm kind of thinking as I'm talking about it right now, but I'm kind of thinking that I'll break this one up into maybe like 5 or so different parts. Just because there is so many things to talk about. And if you've been tuning in for a little while, I love to talk about like the subject and then break it down into like the psychology and the spirituality, if it applies, and just kind of talk about it all in a nutshell. I think those things are interesting, and I don't think I'm the only one. So, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go over what I'm planning on talking about, so that way, if I do break this up into different parts, you can go to the specific part that you want to hear. So, of course, we're going to cover what is the Matrix really, like what really is the Matrix. We're going to be going over the psychology behind the Matrix, and we're going to be covering the spirituality side of escaping the Matrix. Of course, can't leave that out. We're also going to be talking about why everyone wants to escape now, because I have noticed that lately. And then how to escape the Matrix. So I really want to, and then of course we'll do the closing and all of that. So that's kind of a bird's eye view of everything we're going to be talking about, we're going to be covering. Of course, as always, I encourage you to do your own research. I can only do but so much as far as explaining. I try to explain things in different ways, so that way maybe it'll resonate for you. But I always think it's a good idea for you to do your own research. So that way you don't just hear someone talking about it, you can really see the information right in front of you. Okay, and again, excuse me, I'm probably going to be a little nasally. So yes, I have water and a Halls instead of coffee for this one. But let's go ahead and get into it. So, escaping the Matrix, right? What is the Matrix really? So, when people hear the phrase escape the Matrix, they often think about conspiracy theories, quitting their jobs, moving off grid, or rejecting society altogether. But what if escaping the Matrix isn't about leaving the world? What if it's more so about finally seeing it clearly? So it's not necessarily escaping your problems. Like, you're not just leaving your problems behind to go and live off grid. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So this series, in this series, because I really think I'm going to break it up into different parts, just so that way it's a lot of information, it's a lot of talking, and it's very interesting to me, but I think it'll be more digestible if I break it up instead of keeping it into one episode. So, as you all have heard, we're going to be exploring the psychology, the spirituality, the conditioning, and conscious choices that shape our lives, and how we can begin living more intentionally, because that's really, in a nutshell, what escaping the Matrix really is. Maybe you've heard people say or talk about escaping the Matrix, or say something along the lines of escaping the Matrix. Maybe you've even felt it yourself, like it's a nudge, like... And what I mean by all this is, like, I don't know about you all, but more and more I keep hearing about people, escaping the Matrix, or, excuse me, they'll say, I'm just trying to escape the Matrix. And what I mean by maybe you've even felt it yourself is that if you have been questioning your life lately, if you're tired of just going through the motions, if you're telling yourself, man, there's gotta be more to this life than just waking up and going to work and checking notifications, scrolling social media, paying your bills, what's for dinner, you know what I mean? Like, you go to sleep and then you wake up and repeat all of that. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, you know what I mean? So, if you have been, or if you are, maybe you're experiencing it now. This is something I experienced a few years I kept remembering, or I remember now just thinking back, like, I remember old me being like, man, there's gotta be more to life than just, going to bed, waking up to your alarm, going to work, working a 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever you want to call it. And, doing almost like the same stuff every day, Monday through Friday, or whatever your work schedule is. And then, you pay your bills and you go get groceries and I'm talking about all the mundane things that we all do day in and day out. Like, there's more to life than just waking up, going to work, coming home from work and being so tired, and maybe you'll eat dinner, and then you go to sleep and wake up and do it all again tomorrow. You know what I mean? So, that's what we're talking about. What does escaping the Matrix actually mean? And no, it's not just about quitting your job and disappearing into the woods or rejecting society. It's actually much deeper than that, and that is the main reason why I've been wanting to talk about this subject. It's been on my list for a while, and so now we're gonna tackle it. So, let's go ahead and break it down. So, the Matrix is a metaphor. Obviously, it's not a place. It's not a conspiracy. It's not just a movie. You know, I had to say something about the movie. It's not some hidden force controlling your life. What it all is in a nutshell is a mindset. It's unconscious living. It's going through all the mundane daily things. By all means, yes, there's magic in the small moments, as that little quote says, or however you say that, but I'm talking about when you're tired of being on the hamster wheel, per se. It's every belief, expectation, and societal rule we've accepted without questioning. It's the life we inherited before we ever decide if it's actually ours. So I think that's really powerful to say. So before we get any deeper, the Matrix, not only is it a mindset, and not only is it unconscious living. So what I mean by that is it's your mundane daily things that you do without thinking. You do it, you know, like going to work. You know what I mean? Like you do it without thinking, oh, okay, well, this is, you know, and maybe your job is fulfilling for now. You know, I'm kind of talking to the point of kind of like it's almost like you wake up one day and you're like, there's gotta be more to life than this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put out there some questions to think about, to explore, to research, to really just think about. So, who told you what success looks like? Why do you want the things you want? What beliefs have you inherited from family, culture, or society? Are your goals truly yours? So, like I spoke about earlier, The Matrix, I know everybody's heard of the movie, and it's kind of fitting for this episode as well as what all we're talking about because, and I kind of had to look this part up because obviously I've watched The Matrix, but it's been a while. So in the movie, Neo discovers that the reality he's living in isn't actually reality. It's a sci-fi simulation. So while we aren't living inside a sci-fi simulation, many of us are living inside assumptions we've never examined. Or, you know, that we've never really thought about questioning. Or really have thought about thinking about. So, many people never stop to ask, do I actually want this life? What do I actually want out of life? Is this the life worth living? You know what I mean? Like, I know that sounds very daunting and very, like, kind of dark. It's more so just deep, you know, some deep things to think about. And sadly, in today's world, it's very uncomfortable to sit and think about deep thoughts like this, because a lot of people are so used to the cheap dopamine, the go, 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 the hustle culture, and all the stuff that they forget about themselves, and they don't necessarily stop and quote unquote have coffee with themselves. Like, they don't stop to check in with themselves and make sure that, okay, is this is this the life that I was wanting to actually live, or did I get derailed somewhere? So, again, those questions from above, I just would like for you to sit with them, think about them. You can actually question or answer them if that's something that you're into. But I'll leave you with these 2 questions to reflect on. You can write it down and stuff like that. So, where did they come from? So, these are beliefs that you've never questioned. Where did those beliefs come from? And do they still serve you today? And then I would love, so here's a little bit of a challenge. Spend one day noticing how often you operate on autopilot. What routines, beliefs, and habits happen without conscious thought? So I think that would be really interesting to just sit with and think about. And yes, that kind of concludes part 1 or episode 1 of Escaping the Matrix. And we just talked about, really in a nutshell, what the Matrix is for people who maybe haven't heard the term. And so episode 2 or part 2, I'll just call it part 2. So this is part 1. Part 2, we're going to be talking about the psychology behind the Matrix. So please stay tuned. And as always, I appreciate all the support that this podcast gets. It definitely doesn't go unnoticed. And if you would like to explore some other deep thoughts or anything like that, you can check out my book, The Daily Divine, a book of soulful truths and everyday wisdom. It is a quote book, so you get quotes, and then at the end of each chapter you get some thoughts to think about. So yeah, again, stay tuned for part 2, and I will see you all there. Bye, have a good day.